Germany making the working class pay for the war. Working people in Germany will be forced to pay for Germany's involvement in Ukraine and the greatest rearmament program since Hitler if the German government gets its way. After decades of social austerity measures, the financial aristocracy has reaped the benefits of escalating inflation and callous pandemic policies, resulting in a hitherto unseen level of popular unrest. As a result of sanctions imposed by Germany and the EU on Russia, the socioeconomic situation in the country has worsened. People in Russia, Germany, and Europe are all affected by them. A third global conflict is looming, as the sanctions hit the working class. By the end of the year, the EU Commission will have completed its sixth round of sanctions on Russia, which will result in a total embargo on Russian crude oil and oil product imports. Shorter deadlines apply only to the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. Germany granted the go-ahead for the embargo, making it feasible. Until a year ago, the EU bought a quarter of its oil imports from Russia, and Germany as much as 35% of its oil imports from Russia, respectively. The embargo's effects on the economy are dire. Inflation, which is now 7.4%, is expected to rise higher, according to economists. For those who remember back to the heights of the oil price spike in March, when fears of an embargo pushed the price to $140 a barrel, commodities expert Gabriel Widman of Bank warned that, in severe cases, we may have to spend up to €3 per litre of fuel. He said that the days of cheap Russian energy are long gone. Diesel and petrol costs might eventually rise beyond €2 per litre, forcing motorists to adjust their spending habits. However, rises in oil prices are not limited to the already prohibitively costly petrol, heating oil, and other oil products that disproportionately impact lower and middle-income families. Prices in the chemical, pharmaceutical, and other industries that depend on oil as a raw resource, as well as transportation and manufacturing expenses, have been growing recently. Due to growing fertilizer and transportation expenses, food is getting more costly. Steel and glass manufacturing are in danger of collapsing because of their dependence on energy. Eastern Germany, whose oil supply dates back to the GDR era, is especially vulnerable because of its reliance on Russian oil. Such as the PCK refinery in Schwerte der Oder on the Polish border that faces shutdown. Thousands of jobs in a structurally fragile area in northern Brandenburg might be lost as a result of this. Oil from the 3,000-kilometer-long Druzhba, Friendship, pipeline, which extends from the GDR to the Ural area, has been processed since 1963. Russian oil can be processed since it has the necessary technology. It would be very expensive to switch to a different kind of oil, which would need shipping from the Polish port of Zachin. The Russian oil corporation Rosneft, the primary owner of the refinery, is also unlikely to make such expenditures. The Druzhba pipeline crude oil is also processed in the second East German refinery in Luna, Saxony-Anhalt. Schwedt and Luna each process more than 12 million tons of grain each year. The Luna refinery, operated by Total Energies in France, on the other hand, has a more straightforward technological transition. If both refineries close, all oil products must be imported from Western Germany, raising costs and endangering employment. This might have a negative impact on road building, chemical manufacturing, and plastics processing, according to an advisory from the East Brandenburg Chamber of Industry and Commerce. State Economics Minister Jörg Steinbach, SPD, of Brandenburg claimed Schwedt supply northern Germany, Bur airport and territories in western Poland with diesel, petrol and paraffin. In the absence of PCK, the situation would mainly remain at a halt. Uncertainty surrounds how the federal government intends to assist. Despite the fact that Schwedt is immediately impacted by the oil embargo, other, less directly impacted businesses often announce massive layoffs. Henkel, Purcell, Schwarzkopf, Schaumer, Patix, etc., announced the elimination of 2,000 jobs. The rise in raw material costs and the departure from Russia, where the business had 11 manufacturing facilities, were cited as the reasons for the company's demise. A gas embargo on Russia, which Germany and the EU are also pursuing in the long term, would be even more damaging than an oil embargo. Alternatively, Russia may choose to shut off its gas supply in response to an oil embargo. Immediate Russian gas supply disruption has been modeled by the Leibniz Institute for Economic Research Halle, IWH. A 2% decline in GDP and a €200 billion decrease in NIP, or 2.7 million fewer employment, are projected for 2023, according to this scenario. Putin's war chest is used as an excuse by the German and EU governments for the oil embargo. However, this masks the true motivations. A misleading and dishonest claim by NATO is that it is protecting Ukraine's independence and democracy from an imperialist invader. As a result, the people of Ukraine are being used as pawns in an international proxy conflict. There can be no justification for Russia's war on Ukraine. As a result of NATO's aggressive and illegal wars in the former Yugoslavia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya and Syria, the United States was able to consolidate its global dominance. NATO was also responsible for NATO's methodical approach against Russia. To put it another way, NATO is doing all in its power to impede a ceasefire and a peaceful resolution to the conflict in Afghanistan. It is supplying the Ukrainian army with weaponry and intelligence information, as well as providing military instructors and information. In order to acquire unrestricted access to Russia's large landmass and vital raw commodities, it aims to defeat Russia and bring about regime change in Moscow. For the United States and the main European countries, the war against Russia serves as a warm-up for conflict with China, their most significant economic and political opponent. The impact of the oil embargo on Russia's economy is rather minimal. Russia supplied more oil than normal in April, despite the fact that many Western merchants ceased purchasing from the nation. India, which is in desperate need of it, purchased a significant amount. A high global price meant that Russia was able to provide reductions without incurring losses. This is despite the EU's desire to prohibit vessels using the EU flag from delivering Russian oil. According to former Handelsblatt editor-in-chief Gabor Steingart, Germany's main motivation for the oil embargo is to detangle and reorganize its worldwide economic links in order to make a world war manageable. For most of the 1970s, Germany and the Soviet Union had what was known as a privileged partnership, with energy connections at its center. Since 1991, Germany and Russia have maintained this collaboration as well. As early as 2014, Germany started to break with this when it backed the right-wing coup in Ukraine alongside the United States. It is now again utilizing military force to further its imperialist goals in the East, as it did in 1914 and 1941. This requires the ruling class in Germany to declare war on the working class, which will shoulder the hardships of militarism while armaments and energy industries and other profiteers benefit from the conflict and skyrocketing prices for both oil and natural gas. This week saw record earnings for Shell, which was disclosed Thursday. In the first 3 months of 2022, the oil giant made $9.13 billion, a 43% increase over the same time in the previous year. BP reported a profit of $6.2 billion for the third quarter, increasing 138% from $2.6 billion a year ago. It's a money machine for BP CEO Bernard Looney, he said. There were also billion-dollar earnings from ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Total Energies. Last year, their shares gained an average of 58%. Only the defense sector performed better. Since the beginning of the year, shares of German armaments manufacturer Rheinmetall have increased by 150%. Time to put a stop to the insane behavior. The worldwide working class must unite against wage theft, social austerity, and war in order to defeat capitalism and construct a socialist society.